I'm going to call the Cuyahoga County Committee of the Whole Regional Transportation Advisory Subcommittee meeting for Thursday, November 30th, 2017 to order, and the clerk will please call the roll.
Calling the roll, Mr. Miller.
Here.
Ms. Conwell. Here. Ms. Gallucci.
Kelly Britt representing Ms. Gallucci.
Mr. Feliciano.
Present.
Ms. Richardson Scott. Ms. Richardson Scott is absent at the moment. Mr. Singh.
Present.
Mr. Osby. Mr. Osby is absent at the moment. Mr. Mitterholzer.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great. Thank you very much. Do we have any public comment related to the agenda?
Yes. Mr. Rafiz.
Raphael.
Oh, Raphael, sorry. Oh, it's not agenda. Mr. Chair, do you want the agenda and non-agenda items together, or do you want to separate
Let's do them all now.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Councilman Miller, Councilman Conwell, members of the subcommittee. My name is Rich Raphael. I'm here today representing Clevelanders for Public Transit. I wanted to come after a bit of a sabbatical and first of all express my gratitude for the work this committee has done over the past year. It's good to see this committee up and running. It's good to see the committee is making progress. I believe that this committee and County Council as a whole has given transit riders the most voice and the most input concerning the issues we're facing with public transit in Cuyahoga County. And we hope that this can continue. We hope that we can keep going. We hope that it won't just be the end of the year, but we can go on into 18 and 2019 and continue to work together to address the issues that our riders are facing. Planning is good, but I think we also need to keep monitoring some things in addition to the planning we're doing and have some oversight going on as well. And we would like to see if we could meet with Councilman Miller and Councilwoman Conwell to discuss that aspect of this just a little bit further at some point in the future. I'm concerned because I don't want this to be just planning, okay? And I think Akshay will probably expand on that a little bit in a few minutes. I don't just want it to be planning, okay? There's a lot of stuff going on right now that needs to be monitored. There's a lot of stuff going on that needs to be having some oversight connected to it. And again, if we meet with you all, Mr. Chairman and Councilwoman Conwell, we can expand on those further because I only have 3 minutes. We look forward to continuing a strong working relationship with this body. And I will be working closely with Akshay to help us continue to strengthen and further build the relationship the riders of this county have with County Council and the subcommittee. I thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you very much for your testimony.
Next is Marvin Ronaldson.
What is the last name, please?
Ronaldson.
How do you spell that?
Ronaldson.
Please proceed.
All right. I am a resident of Lakewood, a lifetime resident of Cuyahoga County, and here I am representing All Aboard Ohio, of which I'm a board member, and Cleveland, Northeast Ohio coordinating member. I think that everyone in this room knows the challenges that transit has faced in Ohio, and I think we need to understand how catastrophic the loss of the MCO will be to transit in Northeast Ohio. There's no getting around it. There is nowhere else to cut. And what I provided with all of the members on the committee was just a 2-page summary of what a transit network redesign would be, and that if these cuts do pass, this may be the only alternative to maintaining any type of worthwhile transit service in Cuyahoga County. So please, you guys take a look at that, read through it. Has a lot of good information on there, and we can't be left behind because the state can't get their act together. Second point is that transit is too important to be left to one entity to manage. That I feel that it requires all stakeholders in this region to speak on behalf of a fully funded public transit system, not just RTA, but everyone. When RTA was created, it required many people working together to actually create that organization, create that agency, to make it successful. They had no choice, because if they didn't do that, there would be no transit system at all. So I think we're getting close to that point again with RTA, that we really need to bring the whole team back together and start having deep conversations about what we want transit to look like over the next 30 to 50 years. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
What was his name again?
Marvin Renalson.
Thank you.
Ms. Lou?
Hi. The frequent concerned residents in the Cuyahoga County, Lou, is here. First of all, I would like to thank the subcommittee, all the members. However, I really wish this is not just a one-year thing, because I found out this subcommittee actually would do more than a civilian-based group to advocate or to detect problems in our transportation system. The reason that is because I just went to the November RTA board meeting, and my impression is RTA is not very open-minded as this subcommittee is. This subcommittee can gather information, resources together way better than, unfortunately, the management of RTA. So this is my concern. I wish to give this 2 cents, and please considering if there's any way our chairman and co-chair can actually help everybody out to continue this subcommittee, because I believe this subcommittee can do way more and way better to give the oversight or even suggestion to how RTA should do. Otherwise, maybe we think maybe it's a better way we have to get somebody else in instead of a close-minded RTA. The other thing is we still have local transportation problems. Of course, these may not really reflect how we can get funding. However, if the state made all those mistakes in the past, I think we still have a longer way to go. So I would say maybe this subcommittee should even do more than just planning or watch out the state budget issue. And if this one can really expand out as a regular subcommittee, that would be even better. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No one else has signed in.
Okay. Thank you very much. We have in our packets the minutes from the October 26th, 2017 meeting. Is there a motion relative to those minutes?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from October 26, 2017. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the minutes are approved. Thank you. And there are no legislative matters referred to the committee, and we come to our 2 discussion items, and the first item is that we are going to hear a report from Ann Pease from University Circle, Inc. Regarding their transportation planning process and commuter assistance. And we really appreciate the time and effort that you've taken to put this presentation together. I've seen an advanced copy of it, and it's a very broad and useful presentation, and we're looking forward to hearing it. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me and inviting UCI to talk about our transportation planning work. My understanding is that we're here to share more about what is happening in the transportation world across University Circle broadly, and then I can share a little bit on UCI's role and how we're promoting and pushing efforts in different directions. So I figured I'd start with a little bit of background on why University Circle has its focus on, cares about transportation and is really making this a big priority for our organization. For context, University Circle is the area surrounding the Cleveland Clinic, University Hospitals, Case Western Reserve University, the VA Hospital, and a number of our arts and culture institutions. We are the second largest employment hub in Northeast Ohio, second to downtown. We have 45,000 employees working within 1.5 square miles. And in addition to that, we are a burgeoning mixed-use district. We have 10,000 residents who live in University Circle. In the last 10 years, we've added 1,000 housing units, and in the next 1 year, we plan to add another 700 units. The point being that we're growing as well. So our focus on transportation is really about managing that growth sustainably, understanding our transportation infrastructure, and thinking about how people who work, live, and visit University Circle will use that infrastructure into the future. This concept led University Circle to lead a district-wide transportation planning process. We did a 3-part transportation and mobility study starting in 2014. It lasted through 2016. And really, we started by looking at our parking assets and looking at opportunities for shared parking opportunities and better management across different facilities. Then we looked at safety and infrastructure improvements we could make to intersections, kind of lower hanging fruit things, not bridges or tunnels, but really what could we do to sidewalks, lane widths to improve circulation and also improve safety for users across different modes. And then the third study looked at coordination and how could our transportation planning really be a district-wide effort that maximizes the resource of our major employers, of residents, so our financial resources and our advocacy efforts could be coming from one voice that benefits the district as a whole. So a key part of the transportation plan was focusing on those 45,000 daily commuters. People who are commuting typically make the same types of trips every day. It's how you get to work is a habit. And what we learned through the study, as well as a district-wide survey we conducted last year on transportation habits, most people are commuting to University Circle in the morning between 7 and 8 a.m. and in the evening between 4 and 5 p.m. So there are really 2 times in the day where there are lots of people using the roads. And why this matters to us is that how they're getting to work is really important. So if 45,000 people are driving, most of them during these key times, we're going to experience congestion, poorer air quality, poor environmental health, poor public health for people who are living in the area. And so we're also very concerned what the mode diversity is. Are people biking? Are people taking transit? Are they driving? Are they sharing rides? So last year we conducted our first district-wide survey. We asked people how they get to work. And we got responses from over 4,000 employees, so we had about a 10% response rate. And we learned that 86% of people who work in University Circle are driving alone to work. Less than 4% are taking RTA, less than that are carpooling and using the other modes. So this really forces us to think about what could the employers who are where those people are going, what could they do to encourage people to think about their commuting habits? Where do people go when they think about their transportation options, or what other options exist for getting to work? And so another key recommendation from the study was to focus on transportation demand management. And this is a term commonly referred to as TDM. But what it is, it's a program, sort of a suite of information, encouragement, and incentives offered by some sort of umbrella organization to help people know about and use all of their transportation options to optimize those modes, all the modes across the system. So when we look back at this chart, 86% of people driving alone is not an optimal use of our transportation system. So TDM is really focusing on reaching people with information, offering services that work, reliable information, reliable services. And really the key is that it's not just one program. It's not just one service. It's not a benefit. It's the constant reminder, kind of a culture change around how we're communicating about transportation. And they're typically, TDM is accompanied by some sort of public marketing campaign, the key being that people can't use a service or a different mode if they don't know that it's there or how it works. So campaigns, information campaigns around different modes is an important part of TDM. You can use traditional or innovative technology services, so things like websites would be more traditional, things like apps, helping people find rides would be more innovative. Those are common aspects of TDM. And then the exciting part about this work in University Circle is that a number of our workplaces already have programs like this in place, which kind of leads to the discussion of UCI's role. But some of the examples of what workplaces in University Circle are doing are that the Cleveland Clinic, for example, offers free parking to carpools of 4 people or more, and there are discounted rates if you have a 3-person or a 2-person carpool. University Hospitals offers a 10% discount on transit passes for every year that you're employed there. So if you're an employee for 5 years, you would get 50% off of your monthly RTA pass, 10 years, 100%. They also have a flex parking lot. So if you do purchase a monthly transit pass, up to 2 days a month, you can park for free in a flex lot, which is a little bit further away, but you don't have to pay for it. And this gives people the opportunity where if you can't commit to riding transit every day, or there are a couple days a month that you know you're going to need your car for meetings or doing something after work, you still have a parking spot. That's a huge barrier for people making the shift to taking transit. And then the Museum of Natural History has had a parking cash out program, which offers employees who don't occupy a parking spot at work, they're taking another mode, they can get up to $50 a month for that mode choice. And that's something that UCI, we have implemented a similar program for the employees at our workplace, modeled after this program. So that brings us back to what is UCI's role in this? I think it would be clear for anyone really thinking about this that the opportunities for those individual programs to really make a difference would be more impactful if they were offered district-wide, or if it weren't just by where you work, but if it were something, if you work in this place because we are an employment center, because we share the same roads, because the air quality in our district matters, because we share crime and parking constraints, there are numerous shared benefits to having a district-wide effort and having a more geographical approach rather than a workplace approach to transportation management. So UCI, our major role is coordinating and convening, having the right people at the table to consistently talk about transportation, different programs available. Kind of the next step, like pushing past this idea of just getting the right information to people, is thinking about transportation services, programs, and capital projects through this TDM lens. And that just means thinking about optimizing all of the modes in this system as you think about transportation in different ways. And so that's where UCI really has a good opportunity, and other geographical-based organizations doing transportation planning, who own parking facilities, who can advocate to the city or to NOACA or to RTA on various services to think about how one project or one service impacts people traveling by different modes. So in the last year, we've convened a Sustainable Transportation Committee. There are representatives from Cleveland Clinic, UH, Case Western Reserve University, the VA, the Natural History Museum, RTA, NOACA, and the city to strategize different programs. We conducted our first district-wide survey last year. We developed with that group, and this is an important part, a shared vision for what we want the district to be, with transportation playing a role in that vision, but the major goal, maintaining University Circle's economic viability, University Circle as a place where people want to live, where they want to visit, and then transportation being a key part to how that will look going forward based on the growth. Through UCI, we're able to work with different employers to advocate and advance capital projects that have these shared benefits to different groups. UCI manages and owns parking facilities and shuttle services. So again, we can think about how our policies and how our services are reaching different audiences. In order to effectively communicate through one voice about this approach to transportation, we've developed a district-wide transportation brand that we're calling YouGo. And you'll see that in our new website, which is called yougointhecircle.com. The purpose of having a website is to communicate transportation information in one spot. If someone were wondering how they could get to work without a car, or if they were looking for other options, they might know to go to RTA's website. They might know about bike share. They might know about the new van pulling service. They might know about ride matching through Ohio Commute. But the YouGo website puts that all together in one spot and says, here are your options. I have a few screenshots later in the presentation I'll show of what the site looks like. But I shared in advance of the meeting our annual report, and this is something we put together to communicate to a larger audience some of the transportation work that we're doing. I think it's helpful because it shows some of the metrics that we're looking at, both in how people are getting to work and then the usership of different services. We summarize the work that we're doing in terms of public speaking events, the number of meetings we're convening, dollars we've applied for through grants, through different sources for capital projects and new programs. It outlines our shared mission and our 6 goals. We did develop a series of metrics that these types of reports report out on for how we're making progress towards those goals. These pages summarize the results of our first district-wide commuter survey. So the map again on the bottom is showing where people who live in University Circle work. Huge important factor in how you decide to get to work is where you live. We're looking at our carbon emissions per vehicle, and all of this data can be broken down by workplace as well. So that individual employers, many are applying for different sustainability grants. They receive different sustainability awards. So this type of reporting is also helpful because it aids individual workplaces' sustainability reporting. We break down to the non-drive alone modes, what percentage of people are commuting by bus, by train, by the health line, by bike, by carpooling. And this again is really helpful to have by workplace so that as you're thinking about different TDM programs you could offer, it makes a difference whether you are subsidizing carpooling or if you're buying transit passes. The data helps us better understand what might work better at one workplace versus another. And then are there opportunities for district-wide programs and incentives that would make sense across different workplaces? We have some comments, like things that people have said about why they commute the way they do and what could change their mode, just to connect this, that there are a number of people using alternative modes already, and their comments help us understand how we could get more people to make those healthy, sustainable decisions as well. The services section shows ridership of the 2 rapid stations. We have 2 rapid stations, 8 bus lines, the health line, car sharing, bike sharing, van pulling. So we're showing statistics on how well used they are. And another aspect of this is that we want to measure this over time. With fiscal year 2017 being our baseline, we want to see progress and know that more people are riding bikes, walking on our sidewalks, hopping into a van pool, choosing to carpool. So both this is a snapshot in time, but it's also a baseline metric for how we're proceeding into the future. Another section is on programs. Again, a lot of people who are in kind of an operations role think, well, yeah, it would be great if we could reduce the number of drive-alone commuters to our workplace, but how do you do that? What are the programs available? What are other comparable organizations doing? So this highlights a number of programs that we think are good examples in the district. It shows TDM, the wheel on the left is showing the TDM programs are like the rainbow list on the left, and then workplaces are in gray. So it's showing which workplaces offer which programs. And then a little bit more information about Greater Circle Living, RTA's Commuter Advantage program, the Van Share program, with stories from commuters who are already using those services. So both the baseline metric, a communications tool, and a learning opportunity for someone wondering how these programs work. In terms of capital projects, we really frame the improvements we're making to the roadways, sidewalks, bike lanes in terms of safety. So we're measuring crashes in the district. And then these capital projects are multi-year processes. They are heavily resource intensive and take a long time. So the two we're featuring here, we received a TLCI grant last year from NOACA. So that program is described on the left. We implemented, with the help of TLCI planning and the Moving Grid University Circle study, a new crosswalk at MLK in Carnegie to help students arriving to school through RTA to safely cross MLK here. So these are the snapshot of in fiscal year 17. This is what we were working on in terms of those projects. We've also, and this is a little bit separate from the annual report, but we've circulated a TDM commitment statement to major employers to give some examples of what it means to buy into TDM and to participate. We've had 6 organizations sign on with a letter of support from RTA, and this also helps us advocate to say that it's not just something happening at one workplace, but smaller organization who employs fewer people. This is a broader effort. A number of workplaces are bought in. You should join the movement. It's a train in motion. The last few slides I have are on our dedicated website, which is the newer initiative. And as over the past year, we've been compiling baseline data, understanding the programs that exist. The next step is to really start communicating and pushing forward information about alternative modes. So the UGO website is our channel to do that. Some of the key features on the website, again, are listing all of those transportation options. We have a resources map showing where car share stations, bike share stations, public parking, permit parking, where those resources exist. We're connecting with GoHio Commute, which is NOACA's platform for trip logging, trip planning, and carpool matching. So most of the resources that we're featuring are services that exist, and we're trying to help reach the employee audience with those services through UGO. And then the transportation alerts are something that commuters can sign up for. If we know about a project that's impacting a roadway or a sidewalk, we send out an email and post the project on our website so that people know if their travel will be affected as they're coming into the district. This is a screenshot of our landing page. And again, a purpose is to grab people with the information. So we're very targeted towards the employees, but it's also something that could be helpful if someone were traveling to University Circle and wondering about their options. This is our alerts page. Again, all of the modes listed in the same spot. Our map. We also have an employer incentives page, and this is showing programs that are available to anyone who works in University Circle. So Commuter Advantage would be an example that's available to most employees. The employer has to sign on, so there are a few that don't, but most people could buy a transit pass pre-tax. Many people don't know about that. The Greater Circle Living Program is something that's available to everyone. And it will be the channel into the future as we develop programs and are really strategic about what we want to offer. This will be the platform to communicate those things. And then trip planning, again, we're linking out to NOACA's GoHio Commute platform. And through that, we can really track, how many people are logging trips, how many people are looking for carpool matches. And hoping, again, these are the types of resources we will be measuring the use of over time. And our objective now is to really get information about this website out to a broader audience through that TDM lens. And that one of our base assumptions is that more people would use alternative modes if they have information and know how to use them. So this is one channel to do that. So that's where I'll leave what I have to say now. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Well, thank you very much for that fine presentation. It's obvious that University Circle is taking the whole area of transportation very seriously, and people are working together and doing a lot of good work, so we appreciate those efforts. And I'll open it up to the committee and see if anybody has any questions for Ms. Pease. We'll start with Ms. Conwell.
Through the chair, what's your last name again?
Peas.
Ms. Pease. Has there been any discussions with RTA and University Circle in terms, are they aware of you guys doing this transportation study?
Yes. So RTA heavily participated throughout the mobility and transportation planning stages. I mentioned the Sustainable Transportation Committee that I meet with monthly. RTA participates in that committee, but then Director Calabrese co-chairs our task force, which meets 3 times a year. This is the group that formed during the transportation and mobility planning phases that still continues to meet more as an advisory, a higher level group than the group that meets monthly.
And would you know how many of the 86% of the driver loans are connected to children, or children having to be picked up? So have you looked at that?
So that's a great question and something that often comes up when people say why they drive alone. Our survey asks the question, more qualitative, why do you commute the way you do? And so people have given us their responses to why they're choosing to drive alone there. And childcare is, it wasn't actually one of the options that we listed, and many people filled it in as a fill in the blank. So it is common.
Okay, but do you have any data how much of that 86%? Is it like the high number, or
I'd have to look back and see what that says.
I would think that would be an issue for most people, depending where your kid goes to school, where you live, and where you work.
Definitely.
A third question, has there been any conversations with Metro Hospital regarding the Go Ohio commute platform, especially now since they're in their transformation plan? I'm looking, they've got quite a few parking garages. I don't know what's in the future in terms of them as they're rebuilding, but it would seem like they would be a good partner to get into this
Definitely.
Program to offer this incentive, not only because University Circle and Cleveland Clinic has the fortune to be in University Circle. This is kind of like an outlier. So has there been any conversations, or are they familiar with the Go Ohio commute platform, Elise?
That's a great question. I would defer to NOACA to respond.
Mr. Chair, to the councilwoman, yes, we did a very robust rollout of Go Ohio commute, and so yes, Metro Health is very much aware of that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Other questions? Yes, Mr. Singh.
Through the chair, thanks, Annie, for presenting. I was trying to, I don't know if you have any data on kind of what the dynamic has been in terms of the drive alone percentage. I imagine the Little Italy stop would have made a difference. The health line getting done would have made a big difference, but, and with so a lot of dynamics going into transit in University Circle, we've had several rounds of cuts. Is there any idea if that has gone up, gone down in terms of percentage over the years? Was there any sense of how to collect that?
That's a really good question. So how you conduct the survey and how you collect the drive alone rate would bear an impact on how that number changes. Last year was the first year that we conducted the district-wide survey asking employees how they get to work. NOACA has done a number of surveys in the past that look at slightly different geographies. So you could look at our zip code, 44106, and get a sense of that data over time, which I think could better answer that question.
Would that be in the commuter survey?
That would be...
Or American Commuter Survey?
Yes.
Or American Community Survey.
And some of the longitudinal employment and household, LEHD data. Would be good to look at. The reason that we did our survey the way that we did was we really wanted to focus on the workplaces and try to cut out the Cleveland Heights cut that would also fall into 44106 and focus on our geography. But I think a different data source would be better to determine the impact of those stops in the health line.
And
Please
one
proceed.
other question was just about, in terms of standard parking, I know they operate the
shuttles.
The shuttles through UCI?
It's a shared contract
Okay.
with Case Western University Hospitals and UCI.
And has there been any, I know there used to be circulators, and generally they were cut across the system, but there was the circulators that hit like Shaker Square from University Circle up to Cleveland Heights. I wasn't sure if there had been any understanding of how standard parking, how their transit kind of looks versus, you know, what RTA had, and would there be any idea of like ridership? I know you had the daily arrivals on those links, but there wouldn't be any data on the old circulators, would there?
I haven't seen that data, although I'm sure it exists on some level in RTA's records.
Yeah.
But they were RTA shuttles that went in between, or circulators that went between University Circle and Shaker Square that no longer exist. But it would be interesting to see those. The way that the shuttles work, they have been in the past more of like connecting employees who park a little bit far away from the parking lot to the front door of where they work. And recently there's been more of a shift in saying, let's optimize these shuttles so that they're connecting also where people live close by and that are a little bit far to walk and that don't want to drive but feel like that's the only option. So there have been more commuter shuttles and public-facing visitor shuttles added in recent years that now we're collecting robust data on through standard parking. We are working really carefully with RTA as we recently expanded the Blue Link shuttle, which just launched in 2016 as a new route as part of the Circle Link route, and extended it into Coventry in October. And we worked carefully with RTA to complement bus number 9 running down Mayfield. The goal there was to add transit service between an area where we know a lot of people who work or study in University Circle live. And it's still on a visitor route as well, so a number of people coming to University Circle. Visitors also want to go to Coventry. So we extended it in an effort of complementing and adding transit frequency between Coventry and University Circle.
And then my last thing, sorry, is do you know if there's any way that standard parking would be able to share that? I know there's the Next Bus site, but to like make that open data to like the transit app so that it's all one spot where one could look up when both the local links are coming as well as when the buses are coming.
Yes, that is also a major goal. And when we just overhauled Next Bus, as it was falling short of our expectations for real-time information, we've replaced it with an app called Transloc. So it's the Transloc Rider app. Anyone could download that app and see the shuttle information. We're working on getting the public-facing commuter routes, so less of the parking garage to the front door, but the ones that are running into Coventry and going into the Heights onto the transit app. So there'll be at least 4 routes that are being pulled they use Transloc's data to upload it onto the transit app. Okay. But again, that's a really important goal of adding transit service there. If someone misses the shuttle or misses the bus, they would see that the bus or the shuttle is coming 8 minutes later. So having it in the same platform, definitely a priority.
Thanks.
Okay. Mr. Mitterholzer.
Hi, through the chair. Hi, Annie.
Hi.
I know that one of the hopes from funders like the Gun Foundation who funded this effort initially was to pilot UCI with the hope of doing some TDMs in other places, potentially downtown or other places in Cuyahoga County where have high traffic demand. Has anyone approached you about that?
Yes. So Downtown Cleveland Alliance are working on, they're in the very early stages of a transportation and mobility study. Again, kind of sourcing from the same place of a parking crunch and really wanting to get more people out of their cars into alternative modes. So our understanding is that Downtown is working with RTA and very closely with NOACA to embark on a similar study.
Right.
I guess just one last one. I guess it'd be, and you don't need to go and take too much liberty with this, but do you see a role like for, you know, how the county might be able to like be supportive of this kind of like TDM either in like in any kind of hub that would need it like on TDM or some support role, you know, in general?
That's a great question, and I would probably need more time to think about it. But I think broadly, looking at job centers and where people live, and really thinking about how well our existing transit service is servicing where people live and where they work. And the more people that are living in close proximity to transit, the greater opportunity they'll have to use it and get out of their cars.
Thanks.
Anything else? Okay. You generated a good number of questions. That's good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for all the time and effort you put into this and for the presentation. It was very helpful.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you. Okay. We will now move on to the second discussion item, which is the committee's draft final report. And first of all, I very much appreciate the words that some of the people said about that maybe this committee should continue past its planned termination, and there may be some discussion with council leadership between now and the next meeting. But the current plan is that our meeting 2 weeks from today, on December 14th, will be the last meeting of this committee. And at that time, we want to adopt a report talking about what the committee did in issuing a set of recommendations. And you have at your desks a proposed draft, and I would just comment that as you know, about a week ago, I sent you an earlier draft by email, and there is very little change in the main body of the report between the draft you saw by email and this draft. The main differences in this draft is that we completed getting the appendices put together. We have end notes for information that should be documented as to source. We have acknowledgments. We have references. So we have these additional pieces were put together in this latest draft, but the body of the report is almost the same. So at this point, I would like to throw things open for any discussion, comment, or suggestions, and I would encourage people to give those today. But also, I would say that you can take these drafts with you. It's often easier to work from a hard copy that's closer to a final draft, and we could take until 1 week from today, and again, if you have further comments after today, please send them to me with a copy to Yvonne. We don't want to send it more broadly than that, because then it gets into conducting public business by email, which we can't do. But the best would be if people have had a chance to look at this, and if people have any comments, I would very much like to hear them now. And Mr. Singh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On page 12, the bottom there is beginning section A, and I'd ask either Mr. Johnson or Mr. Feliciano, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the lowest increment that can be requested is actually now 0.1%. but I don't know if either of you.
That would be very, very significant if that's the case, because
Yeah.
because a 0.25% is probably really too large for this purpose. So we will research that and get a definitive answer, and if it in fact is something other than a quarter, we will
I
get
believe
it
that was
correct.
a recent change, so if you could confirm that. And then for Section C, I would just ask if the fare hike that's already been approved for August 2018 be included as a piece of that, because it's referring to increased fares as an option.
Okay, so that's page 13. Info on fare hike.
And I don't know if this would be editorializing too much, but I think it would be important to note, just for context for that Part C, that, and I can provide the citation, that for a city our size and an income profile, Cleveland is currently the second highest percentage of transit commuters are putting the second highest percentage of their incomes into their transportation expenses.
Okay, if I could, I would be willing to include that if you would forward me the source of that information. Okay. Okay. Ms. Conwell?
Well, I just wanted to personally say I thought you and the staff did an outstanding job of including everything that I think we've calculated over the year. It's a year and a half, and what we've done. And I think this is a good starting point to go on to the secondary or larger committee that will handle this, as well as I was very intrigued today with the presentation from UCI. That an organization has taken the time, and pretty much the things we have discussed throughout this year and a half here. How do we get where the employers are and connect people? So that would also, having your permission, would be a great thing to be included, I think, with this final report as we proceed with the larger transportation committee, which is foreseen to be larger stakeholders than us, the hospitals, people that really need their employers at work, have parking shortages, need to utilize RTA. So
I had advance access to this report, and there is actually some material already in the report on today's presentation, but based on actually hearing the presentation today and more information, we might add a little more, but at least we have a start already in the report.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Mitterholzer.
Mr. Chair, on page 20, first paragraph there, it says in cooperation with under Ms. Caruso, report about Ms. Caruso, in cooperation with the Gun Foundation, if we could say the Fund for Economic Future, she's actually funded by them. We are a member of the fund, but it's actually the Fund for Economic Future that she was working for.
Okay, so instead of Gun Foundation, it should be Fund for Our Economic Future.
Please.
Okay. Okay, we will correct that. Anything else? Okay, well, hearing none, we will continue on. But once again, I would invite everyone to take them home, look them over the next week, and forward to Yvonne and me any further suggestions, and we'll try to get them incorporated, and we will have the final draft ready for your consideration at the meeting on December 14th. We would very much like to have everybody from the committee in attendance on December 14th. Is there anyone who at this time anticipates a problem being present?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I apologize, but I've been summoned to San Francisco to have a meeting with major climate change funders about the current administration.
That sounds important.
Well, that is a very, very significant problem. There's no question about that. So please be sure if you have any further comments or suggestions about the report to get them to me. Okay. Does anybody have any miscellaneous business? Hearing none, has anybody signed in for further public comment?
No, no one else has signed in.
Okay. There being no further business that holds our attention, we stand adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.